Steve Hopper was sentenced to 10 years in jail at 17 years old, but an unusual encounter with God set his life back on the right track. Unfortunately, trouble, though, was still ahead. So you get out of prison. This is a tough transition for so many people, but you were able to get some support and chances, which not everyone has. You had a great girlfriend, you got a great job, you're starting to make money. So what happened?
Well, you know, God opened some amazing doors, and I walked through them, and I started having success, and I got to a point where I started to lean onto my own understanding of things again. I started to feel like I was in control of my own destiny, and I got caught back up in the world. You know, having that success and things going well, I was not leaning on God as much as I should have been. And because I started to pull away, I wasn't reading the Word, I wasn't praying like I should be, I wasn't going to church, I wasn't involved in the church. I was slowly but surely just kind of pulling away, and God's voice just got further and further and further away from me. And it wasn't long before it all came crashing down. In a matter of just a few months, I lost my corporate job, a six-figure-a-year corporate job. I started going through a very heartbreaking divorce. All of this happening at once. I began to lose everything. And that situation was more emotionally devastating for me than prison was. And I found myself there again. Dark moment, at a crossroads in my life, on my knees, crying out. And the conversation was much different. It wasn't take over my life, it was take me back. And immediately the answer I received was, I never let you go, but it's time. It's time for you to get off the bench and get in the game.
And this all relates back to when you were in prison, God saying to you, like, I have something big for you to do.
Yes.
You had a mentor as well in prison who confirmed that, who said, it wasn't even a Christian, but said, you are meant for more than this. And so it's like God was speaking to you along the way, and then God finally says to you, it's time. What do you do at that point? Like, how do you know even where to start? It's time for what?
Well, it sent me on a mission to find out what my purpose was. And I started praying. I really started praying about it. I was actually walking through the mall one day, and a woman came by me, and she walked by and she handed me a piece of paper. She made eye contact with me and handed me a piece of paper. And she just kept walking. And I opened up that piece of paper, and on the inside of it, it said, "Be still and know that I am God." And it was a message that impacted me powerfully because I knew that I needed to take a step back and I really need to figure out what it was. So I took the message literally. So I got up every morning, had a cup of coffee, sat on the porch, I prayed, I listened, I prayed, I listened, just asking God to reveal to me what it was that He wanted me to go and do. And things just started to come from all different directions.
I have a lot of people that I know that are struggling with that very question, you know, like, how do I figure out what I'm here for? And sometimes it's not that easy to find it. For you, it was speaking at a high school.
Yes, it was. And as I started to, the message to me was, you know, look back at your life. There's a common thread there. Your experiences, your professional, your personal, all of those experiences have clues in them that have gotten you ready to go and fulfill this purpose. And for me, as I look back at my life, in almost every situation I was in, prison, corporate America, owning my own businesses, I was speaking. So that was the one common thread that I saw. And it happened very, very quickly. It all just started to come together, yes.
And part of that was finally being willing to share your story, because even once you kind of got your life back on track, you never really talked about your time in prison and what happened to you.
Right.
Who wants to talk about that, right? In a sense, it's behind you.
Well, it's bigger than that, because when I got out of prison, I believe the devil had convinced me that telling my story was going to hurt me. That it was going to prevent opportunity, it was going to close doors. And I know that a lot of people out there right now have been through some serious things in their life, and they don't share those. They don't share how God brought those through them because they don't want people to know what they've done, what they've been through, etc. But it was a moment for me when I did start to share my story. Not only did God prove that the devil was a liar, because it had a complete opposite effect on my life than what the devil had convinced me it was going to have. So, you know, I've never had any professional training in speaking at all. I've never done any kind of Toastmasters programs. I've never done any professional speaking training. And I realized that very quickly that God had just gifted me with that, and that's what He was going to use.
So tell me what
in my
happens.
life.
You go to this high school, you're going to share, you're just starting to share your story now. You go to this high school, 500 students. What happens? You're terrified, right? Because you don't know
Oh
if
yeah, it
they're
was
gonna...
my first time speaking to the youth, and I got up, and we were only expecting 100 kids to show up, and 500 piled in that gymnasium, and I got up and I shared my story, and at the end, I offered them an opportunity to accept Christ, and 250 kids stood up in that gymnasium that day and made that decision, and for me,
I don't know, it's a pretty special moment. You know, Steve, there's a lot of people watching who feel like they're disqualified from having a relationship with God, for doing anything in this world because of what's happened to them, because of the mistakes they've made. What would you say to those people who are in that very dark place?
I would say that He loves us, that every day He looks at us and He loves us more than we could ever imagine, and that He is going to take the pain if we let Him. He'll take the pain, He'll take the hurt, He'll take our bad experiences, and that He will use them for good. He will use them to impact people's lives. Our stories, all of our stories, are just part of the much bigger story, which is His story. And it's time for us, all as believers, to go share those stories.
Such a good challenge. Thanks so much for just coming and sharing. I know
Yeah.
there's so much more we could unpack, but
Sure.
just so good to see what God's done in you, and so much more to come yet, Steve.
Well,
I
God
know you're
bless
not done.
100 Huntley Street. This is amazing. Thank you so much for having me here with you.
Loved having you here.
Yeah.
If Steve's words are hitting home with you, you know, maybe you have just, you know, a lot of times it's us disqualifying ourselves, not God. Just saying, like, you don't know the kind of home I've come from. You don't know the kind of story I've lived. You don't know what's been done to me and what a broken person I am or what I'm still dealing with. And I know it seems like it's easy for Steve to say this because now his life is in a good place, but that's why he can say it. He's credible. He's been there and he's come here. And God isn't any respecter of persons. He's not more special than you. God doesn't like him more than He likes you. So my challenge for you today is do that thing that He did. Fall on your knees, open up your heart, invite Him in, say, show me why I'm still waking up every morning and breathing. Some of us need to know that. And there is a reason that you're still here and that you survive what you have. If you need someone to talk to, we have prayer lines 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 1-866-273-4444. You'll find the kindest people on the other side of that line who will not judge you, totally confidential. We would love to walk through this moment in your life with you. We'll be right back.